Aisha White, and I am here wearing my glasses to look particularly studious today because I'm talking to you about science. I'm talking to you about the law of conservation of energy. Now, I think that's as far as the science part goes, really. If we take the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, and we lift that and apply it to the way that we communicate, particularly introverts, but extroverts too, I guess, if you can relate in some sort of way. Introverts seem to operate based upon their energy levels. So if we start the day with a fully charged battery, by the end of the day, we're kind of drained or depleted in some sort of way. And I know personally, as I go along the day, the decision of whether or not I speak to somebody and how long those conversations go is based upon my energy level. And too often, if we're being honest here, I go, I don't have the energy. I do not have the energy to do this or to talk to that person. And so sometimes I will just avoid them. I will find detours to get around certain people because there are so many different personalities. I am an INFJ according to the MBTI test, and with that comes the ability to feel what others are feeling in some senses, and that can honestly be pretty draining outside of just having to extrovert all day long. So if I'm working and the type of job that I have, I could be talking on the phone with somebody. Most of the time I'm behind a desk, but it varies each and every day. And with some of the people we work with, whether it's like a networking event or it's having to just converse with those people, you end up extroverting throughout the day. And so it feels like it takes down your energy level. And sometimes I feel like my energy is destroyed and then I have to go and recreate a new batch. Even though this law of conservation of energy claims that it's not going anywhere, that it's just like it gets low and you recharge every day. I'm like, okay, all right, science. So basically, I want to find a solution to this. At the end of the day, I want to feel as though I have exerted more energy than I typically would. And because times where I've avoided talking to people, it's not necessarily that I'm drained. And I rely on that excuse of, I don't have the energy. But you do. Like, you have enough. When you're charged up, you have enough energy to have multiple interactions with people throughout the day. And so what I'm charging us with, this is the challenge I'm putting before us, is to exert more energy than we typically would. Now, I was struggling to try and compress this idea into words, and I was on Instagram and one of my friends just shared this quote, and I was like, this is perfect. This is a perfect way to kind of sum it up. And so I had to do a little digging. I googled the quote. There's no digging. I googled the quote and found out it was actually a quote from Mother Teresa. And I was like, I don't want to be one of those people that like quotes. I don't know. It's like I'm a little hung up about it. It's like those people that quote Mother Teresa or those grand people. It's like, as Mother Teresa said. I don't know. It can get dramatic sometimes. But anyway, I think it sums it up pretty well. And the quote says, y'all, I should know this about her. I don't know about her. I'm going to look it up real quick. Okay, so if you do something out of duty, it will deplete you. But if you do something out of love, it will energize you. And I think that's perfect. That's absolutely a perfect way to sum it up. Now, not that you are going to, when you're interacting with people, you're doing it out of necessarily love. Because if it's someone that you've never met before, I don't think you're falling in love at first sight, but I don't know. But it's that you're not doing it as a duty. You are doing it to better yourself and your communication skills, and that's out of love for yourself. And then also out of love for people in general. If you look at it that way, then it completely makes sense. And so I was just going to give a couple examples in my life the last couple weeks where I am pretty proud of myself that I would say I exerted a little more energy than I typically would. Okay, so I started this art class I've always loved art as a kid, from like childhood. I would draw and paint and all kinds of things like that. And I even remember like I would draw my pictures and I'd bring it to my dad and be like, look, Dad, and he'd be like, oh, okay. And I'd be like, I'm gonna be an artist when I grow up. And he's like, well, like they don't make any money until they die. So maybe try like a doctor or a lawyer. And I was like, oh, all right, kind of grim for a kid, right? So I just like go to my mom because she liked to draw and doodle a lot and stuff like that, and that's where I got that. I think the natural talent and then also just the interest from my mom. She's like, oh, that's so beautiful, oh, and like put it up on the fridge. I'm like, yeah, she gets it. No strike to my father. He's just like, I mean, I just wanted you to be able to like to maintain, financially. I wanted you to be a doctor, but I'm neither. I mean, I'm a budding artist, we'll say, because I'm taking this art class. But so far, this art class has been pretty fun. I've only gone twice now, but so far it's been fun. So I had been following this art studio on social media for a while. I'm trying to remember how I first found out. I think I was looking for an art class, and so I searched online, saw that might be an option, saw that they had pretty reasonably priced classes, and they checked every box. But for whatever reason, I didn't move on it, and it just had been sitting in my mind. So I've been following them for like more than a year on social media and liking their stuff. And finally, I saw that they had a time slot that worked for me in the week and everything, and so I called, and rest is history, yada yada. So, in my brain, the things that I worry about are like, oh gosh, because this place is located like on a main street, like a strip with just a couple spots for street parking, and then you're just kind of like on your own, figure it out. And I hate situations where parking is like that. So really, just like the downtown area in the major city where I am, I'm like, oh no. And so this is what I was worried about. It was like, well, what's the parking situation gonna be? But it was beautiful. Like when they confirmed that I had the class, they emailed me, and then in the email it was like, here's all the details you need, including parking. I was like, thank you so much. And so the day of, it was fine. I didn't even need the additional parking. There was street parking available, and I was able to park right in front of the studio itself. But my mind was so busy thinking about parking that I didn't consider like what the structure of the class would be, like how it was set up, how many people would be there, any of those things, until I walked in and it hit me like, oh, I'm here now. And I'm like looking for the instructor, have no clue who she is. And I see her and she's really nice and she greets me, and it's me, and it's a pretty small class. And I went there and I'm in that class with different women of different ages and from different backgrounds and different levels with art, but the stuff that they were making was amazing. It was beautiful. Like they've been taking the class for like months and months now at this point, and I'm a newbie, but y'all, it was so beautiful. And even someone I met last week that wasn't there the previous week, I was like, oh, so do you have an art background? She's like, no, I don't, not at all. And the things she was creating was beautiful, and I was like, okay, well, hey, as someone who actually has some sort of interest in art, if they're making that and they're just like, yeah, whatever, I'm like, I got potential. So I'm pretty excited about that. Said all that you got that long-winded story for me to set up the fact that I exerted more energy than usual because this is a new setting with new people. So of course you're put in a position where you're introducing yourself. It wasn't any weird icebreaker thing. Oh, I hate those so much. Don't you hate those icebreakers? Let's go around the room, everybody, and talk about, one of our flaws. You're like, no. I hate icebreakers. Anyway, I was introducing myself, and we just had general questions for one another about, our interest in art and where we live and all these things, and it didn't feel like any pressure. Everybody just seems really cool, and they're really funny, and it's just the best to be surrounded by people who just care about art. Like that's, we're talking about our animals, our pets, and dogs and cats and things like that, and it's just, it's no stress. It's a beautiful thing to be able to get through a 40-hour work week, drive to this place and spend 2 hours just drawing and learning about art. It's a foundational art class because, like I said, I loved art as a kid, and I took an introductory to drawing class where I finished some sketches and things like that during my college years, but I didn't get the foundation that comes about contrast and color and stuff like that. So I really wanted to go about it in a more formal way, and this is giving me the opportunity to do that. But even in that, like, it's moving along pretty quickly. Like, I have a painting that I've already prepped the surface for it and kind of like sketched out what I want. It's a pretty simple painting, but when it's done, then maybe I'll show it here. But I'm already pretty excited about it because in the past what has intimidated me has been freehanding, like painting freehand. Usually I'll draw something out and just use like watercolors to color it in, and never using oils and just freehanding it. So that's what I ultimately want to be able to do, and that's my goal. And so I am confident that I'll get there, especially in this environment. The teacher's really sweet and she's great, and I'm excited about it. But anyway, I exerted energy. I was asking questions about the ladies as they asked questions about me, and just finding opportunities to initiate the conversation. And even if you're not the one to initiate it, just helping to move it along. Those pregnant pauses that happen, sometimes they happen naturally and there's nothing you can do about it. But you can kind of feel it. Like me, usually I'm screaming on the inside when I know there's space for something to be said, but I can't figure out what the next phrase is, what the next thought is to get out into the air. I'm just like, I know I should be saying something. I know I should be saying something right now, but I just cannot bring myself to figure out what the right thing to say next is. And I don't feel that doesn't seem to come up. And I think it's just because I'm in an environment where I'm just completely comfortable and I'm doing something that I absolutely love doing. So it's just all around a great, position to be in, quite honestly. So just asking those questions, being upfront about it, and injecting humor where you can. That's always a great thing. You could just be silly about it. And like I said, the topics we talk about, it's just simple things. It's like movies that we like, or okay, someone's moving, recently moved, or our pets. It's just like light-hearted things that pair well with drawing and painting, and no heavy topics. We went in on the sunset the other week. One person is painting this beautiful painting of a sailboat, and there's the sunset, and when the sky is like the orange and purple and pink tints that just like you're like in awe of. I love it. Like this that is something I live for. One of my favorite things is that sunset and all those colors. And so we were talking about how there's those moments where you pull over the car because you're like, I've got to stop and see this, or you pull out your phone or your camera, you're like, I got to take a picture, but it just never does it any justice. It's so beautiful that the only thing that you can really take it in and soak it in is your eyes at that moment, and so you're just staring at it and it's beauty. And we were just like going on about that. And maybe that wouldn't be of interest to every group of, or every group of people, but in that moment, like, that was just bringing us joy, and we're all crowded around her painting. And so it was an opportunity for us to talk about that, and I was giving my input and expressing how much I enjoy those moments in the day and how much that painting reminded me of that. And it's great to be able to communicate with people about something that you're passionate about. I think a lot of times that's the key to communication as an introvert and as an INFJ, is when somebody brings up something that you're really passionate about, you can go on and on about it. And so it's like your antenna goes up and you're like, oh yeah, that's my thing. Let's talk. Like, no, let's really talk about it. And it's nonstop. And so it's moments like that I really enjoy. But I'm pretty proud of myself because I am exerting more energy than I usually would. I could go into that room and be like, we're so different. I don't want to talk. Like, she has cats. I don't trust cats. In general, I don't trust cats. Not that I don't like them. It's a trust issue. I'll explain later. But, I could be like, I'm a dog person. I got a Labrador mix. And I'm like, that's my thing. I don't want to talk. Like, I just don't have energy to talk about cats. But I'm like, no. I'm going to ask you about these cats. I'm going to ask you about the type of cats and like what they're doing. Are they scaling walls? Have they bitten you lately? And I'm recognizing points in time where I can initiate conversation. I can move the conversation along. Just ask questions in general. Show that you care about people, and they will reciprocate by asking you questions. Not all the time. Some people like to talk about themselves and will never ask you about yourself. But even in those moments, you can find entertainment in it. And you can find ways to navigate the conversation. So yes, so far it's been a win, and I'm excited. Oh, let me show you before I forget. I'm going to move on from this art thing if y'all are getting sick of it. But how could you? How could you get sick of art? Hold on, let me get my... Okay, so there's some winners and some losers in this bunch. But lately what I've worked on the last couple weeks, I'm going to put this up here and see if you can see it. This is terrible. Moving along. No, listen. So this lady here, she's gray and black, if you can tell. We're going to start here and pull out. Focus. This lady here, she's gray and black, and it's part of a like contrast exercise that we're doing. So recognizing the contrast using light grays, whites, and blacks. And then this guy over here is inspired by the theme. So it was just like little snippets of photos that were in the notebook, and we were working with that. Now don't concern yourself with this young lady down here. It's just, it's not my best. It's not my best. I'm not proud of it. Don't concern yourself with it, okay? I'm a growing artist. I'm not an expert yet. But anyway, we're working with contrast with light grays, dark grays, blacks, and whites, and recognizing that in black and white photos, and then moving it over to like color too, and identifying the values and the temperatures. And I'm gonna be expert at this by, like some weeks from now, so I'm pretty excited. But anyway, that's what I got going on, and I got a painting that, like I said, I'm gonna start on next week. So we'll see, and I might share my art as this channel goes along. Another example of the way that I was exerting more energy than usual was I found myself in a random situation yesterday. So I've talked about it before in my blog. My father is a minister, and when we were kids, we traveled around to different, most of the time we didn't have our own home base. Like we traveled around to his different friends' churches, and he preached there. And at different points in our life, we had like different buildings and stuff where we teach. So he started up again, he and my mother. I'm a member at another church, but I still wanted to help out, and they're starting up. And so they were giving away free food in the neighborhood to the people around there. And we stopped by because we were going to help drop off some things to just kind of furnish the bathroom and complete the look of it or whatever. And so we stopped by, and he's like, "Hey, thanks. Can you man this for me real quick?" And he's got a grill full of hot dogs. And funny thing is, in December I decided that I was going to eat better, myself and my siblings, and we've been working out and just trying to generally be healthier. And I haven't had meat since January 7th. And so, not having meat, and then be like, "Can you stand in front of this grill full of hot dogs and flip them?" I was like, yeah, I'll help you out. I'll smell the delicious aroma of meat. But it was fine. I was like, I'm pretty strong then, because I got through it without being like, all right, hand me one of those buns and let's eat. Let's try them. But anyway, as I was standing there doing that, there was somebody there that was kind of hanging out and talking to my dad. He was like eating a hot dog, and when he got done, my dad's like, yeah, so man this, and he introduces me to the guy. He's like, this is him. I'm just gonna call him Joe. I was like, this is Joe, this is Aisha, my daughter. And my dad walks away and has to take care of some stuff. And so I'm standing there, and I was like, okay. In my mind, I was like, I gotta prep myself to extrovert. I gotta prep myself to exert some more energy. I'm ready. And I turned to Joe, and Joe's walking away. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I didn't really have to prep for that one then. That took care of itself. But then Joe came back, and he's talking to me, and he was kind of like came pretty loaded with stuff to talk about. But you know, in those moments where things go silent, you're like, oh, okay, well, let me keep this rolling. So, Joe, tell me about yourself. And, Joe, do you live around this area? And, you know, he's telling me about his family and how people live be like 100 years plus and all these things because of health. And I was just like, yeah, we've been working out. We've been trying to do better, you know? Yeah, I could connect with you on this. So it's another opportunity where it's like, oh, we got something in common. Okay, cool. Well, this makes this conversation that much more easy. So I would suggest to somebody who is in a situation where you are trying to exert more energy than you usually would is, first of all, approach it with the right mindset. Like, have the right attitude. And be like, here we go. All right, let's exert some energy. Like, be positive about it and be like, this will go well. Like, this is gonna be fine. At the end of the day, even if you get through a very cringe-worthy conversation, you lived through it, and that's fine. And you take whatever mistakes that were made, whether it's like on your end and you tripping up over words or said something odd that you didn't mean to say, like, okay, now we know for the future. Don't go down that road. Or if there was something that led you to a point where you're like, oh, okay, now we've found this center, this place where we can connect, then go with that. And that's that's the sweet spot. Find that sweet spot in, you know, any conversations you have following that. That'll help you out. So treat every conversation like a experiment, you know, in communication and a way to learn how to better your interactions with other people. And so if that means asking enough questions to keep digging until they come forth with something that is like, okay, now I can grasp onto that because I know what you're talking about. You know, like if somebody's talking to me about college basketball or football for that matter, I'm gonna be like, nothing. I got nothing for you. Like, and I'm trying and I can like ask about stuff, but like I don't know the players' names and team names escape me. I'm like, no. If someone's like, oh, like baseball or something, I have a some basic level of it. I have an interest in it. I will go to the baseball games and watch them live. I played softball poorly in high school, but I've got a point of connection with that. So just like figuring out where it can go. Like my first ever Lyft ride with this guy was with this guy from Venezuela, and he was talking about his country and everything, and I'm like, oh yeah, isn't there like Venezuelan players on the Braves? And we start talking about the Braves, and one of my favorite players, Ender Inciarte, is from Venezuela, and I was like, yeah. And so we had a point of connection, and we were talking about, I can't remember half the stuff we talked about, but I asked him about like the state of the country and why he left and all these things, and it was a smooth ride. Like literally it was a smooth ride, and then it was as far as the conversation went, and it went well, and I gave him like 5 stars or whatever, an extra tip. That's neither here nor there, but it was a way in which I was able to find a point of connection and talk to him about it. I would suggest to you to go about it with the right attitude, go into things positively. Whether you're going to be in a class where you know you're going to see these people every week and you're going to be interacting with them from week to week, or you're in a situation where you're talking to a stranger that you might very well never see again, but still go into it with a positive attitude and the thought process that this is going to go over well. I'm going to make sure that I feel comfortable and do my best to make this person feel comfortable as this conversation goes along until it is at its end. And also recognize when it's naturally ending, right? Like, don't force it. When you see someone's body language and they're like pointing outward and like ready to go, don't take it personally. You don't know what they may have to rush off to. And I want to explore this deeper too in further videos, because there are a couple of people that I follow that I really love that what they have to say about body language, and I get kind of obsessed with that thing, and I have a book that I'm reading now about it, so I'll talk about that soon. If you are paying attention to people's body language, and it all has something to do overall with communication, so their nonverbal communication and also what's coming out of their mouth, and you pay attention to all those things, and it comes together to kind of inform the way in which you'll talk to someone, the questions to ask, and even like if you ask a question and you think it's fine, and if it makes them uncomfortable, just kind of reading their face and their body language, you can tell like, oh, okay, let me like back up and not get into that, or let me dig deeper, whatever it is. And so these examples, whether you are talking to somebody, like I said, that you're going to be seeing from week to week, if it's like at church or at this art class or whatever it is, in whatever capacity, where you're going to be seeing this person each week, or if it's a stranger that you'll never meet again. You know those moments when you're at the grocery store and you get into a line and the line is particularly long, and you're like, ugh, but you look around and there's no other choice, like there's no alternative, you gotta get into this line. You have went and you collected all your food items and everything you need, and you're like, oh yes, I'm ready to go, and you know, the line is just really long. Now you're annoyed, you've got these thoughts, but they're all internal, they're in your head, and that's where they remain. But that's not the case for everybody. There's always at least one fidgety person. You know that fidgety person I'm talking about. They're standing in front of you in line, and they're huffing and puffing because of the line, and you're like, please don't turn around, don't turn around. Sorry. But you're like, please don't turn around. But they do, and they turn around and they want to vocalize their anger. They just want somebody to hear them out. So you're like, hey, you know, and they're like, can you believe this line? And they go on and on, and it'll be like something random like, I gotta get home, my sister's watching the kids, God bless her, you know, she's been through so much. And you're like, oh, okay, we're getting into this. You're like, didn't know that I was gonna be hearing this. But actually, I suggest, if we're gonna be exerting more energy here, listen. Yes, you will become their counselor in line, but what better, like, do you have to do at that moment? You're not going anywhere. You've already decided you're going to stay in the line. All right, be a counselor. Like, if you're an INJ, that's naturally what you do anyway. So it's like, this is my life. But be okay with it. Like, don't let this deplete you. Don't treat it like it's a duty. Treat it like it's something you're doing out of love for people in general. If you have that interest in people and want to know about them, apply that here in the situation with the fidgety person. Ask questions about the sister that they brought up that's watching the kids. Ask about the kid's age. People like to talk about themselves. Now, I feel like a lot of times I'm an exception to that rule, and plenty of people, I don't really like talking about myself unless I'm sitting in front of a camera on YouTube. But outside of that, sometimes it feels like bragging, or I don't know, it's just like too much. Like, why would I want to sit and tell you about all these things? Basically, it's like, why do you care about these minute things in my life? But treat that person like a rock star. Like, you're the television host and they're your guest on this late night TV show. Ask them things and engage them and find points of humor. Find ways that you can inject joy into their life. Because if it's somebody that's really like blowing up over this being in a long line, clearly there's more to it, more to the story than that. Like, it couldn't just be that. It's like there's something underlying reason, and if you can somehow get to the root of that and be able to spin it around into a point of joy for them, even if it's fleeting, even if they go back to anger like once they leave this line with you, if you can take their mind off of the fact that you're in this long line and they've got to wait for a while, and their worries that they're holding on to in their mind at the moment, if you can ask them about, I don't know, their childhood, or about something that happened in pop culture, just something of a lighter nature, then that can make their minds go off to that place, and it interrupts this anger and these negative feelings to just inject joy into their life. If you think about it, don't you love any opportunity to have joy injected in your life? If you're not feeling great, if you're angry, and then something like weird happens in front of you, or somebody said something that makes you laugh and it's unexpected, but it changes your mood, don't you love that feeling? So why not be generous enough to share that feeling or create that feeling for someone else? Do it out of love. Don't do it out of duty. Exert more energy, and it's going to energize you. Don't worry about depleting your energy and giving to this other person. It's gonna like make you light up. you're talking to this person and you might get such an unexpected story from them. And it could be a story that you end up telling someone else. You go home and you talk to someone else about it because it was such a story that made such an impression on you. You never know what you're going to get, but you'll definitely never know if you don't take the time to exert more energy. Don't let the moment pass by. Don't allow yourself to lean on that excuse that I know so often I've leaned on is I don't have the energy. It's not true. You do. Energy is not destroyed or created. Like, you've always got the energy. It's a choice that you make of where you're allocating your energy. It's a choice that you make of how you take that energy and form it into something, form it into a conversation with somebody. So we're not hearing that excuse anymore. That excuse goes out the door. You don't have the energy. Like, yes, you do. You have the energy to communicate with somebody. It's all about the way you choose to do it. So my challenge to you, my point of encouragement to you is to exert more energy. Us introverts could definitely use some practice in this. If you feel kind of anxious when you're talking to somebody, if you feel shy and you don't want to even initiate the conversation, a lot of the times these situations will hand themselves to you and you don't even have to be the one to seek a person out. But when those situations are handed to you, take full advantage of it and exert the energy that you are capable of. So I wish you well. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.